Jaymie Bailey. I am a football coach. I work within football in the women's game. I've worked across the age groups from under 7s all the way up to adults, and at the same time I've worked within leisure centres developing players as well as people for the last 10 to 15 years.
How long does it take to set up a typical one-to-one session?
It takes around about 10 minutes depending on the equipment that I use in the session. So if I have a lot of equipment, then I will take everything out and it would take around about 10 minutes to possibly 15. But in that time, I would give the players or the player a chance just to work with the ball for a bit, and yeah, that's what they would normally do. So a nice little challenge for them just to keep the ball at their feet and keep them motivated, concentrated and focused. The largest session I've taken was a team that I had last season. Done it during this summer, ironically, and we had about 10 players, almost 12. It was lovely to see everybody out. But the session pretty much ran itself with that many players going forward. I had a very small area, but I didn't want a big area anyway. And it was about 10 to 15 players. It was about 10 players altogether. The most rewarding part of being a coach is one, the smiles, but also secondly is the progression. Massively the progression, simply because you don't get into something like this which is competitive and stop at one level. You want to go as high as you can and as far as you can. And if you're only here just to do it for fun, then you've got plenty of parks to do it in. You don't necessarily need to pay for that. You just need a football and a goal, really. But that's what I normally do. That's the type of jobs that I do. The progression is always the biggest thing for me. If you learn from that, then you can really have fun at beating yourself and beating others, and that's where competition really comes in. So the fun and most rewarding part is the progression. At the moment, I haven't specialised in any age groups. I'm working with 2 adult teams at the moment. So if you were to think about it that way, then my specialty would be in the adult age groups. But my specialty is working with female players, rather than just a broad sort of age group at the moment. I've also got an under 11s team. A lot of my players last season were a very good side, and 4 or 5 of them have also gone on to academy status, officially recognised. One is at Chelsea, and yeah, I've just enjoyed my time working with them, but at the same time I've also had ambitions to work with an adult team, so I've tried to combine the 2 together. So I haven't got a speciality, it's just working with players all together.
Is it easier getting adults or children to follow instructions when it comes to drills? Neither
is easy to work with, simply because as much as you work with one age group, you could literally do a session with the same age group, or do the same session with a different age group and just change the wording, just so that it matches to whichever session that you're trying to do. So if I'm doing a passing session, I wouldn't say the same thing to an under 11 as I would to an adult. Sometimes you just have to change it up and adapt it as much as possible, but at the same time you've got to be understanding that some just want to be like kids. Everybody just wants to play football.
How many different drills do you do during an average session?
I change it up quite constantly, but I try to keep it as routine as possible. So usually it's about 4 or 5, and then if it comes into passing and shooting, then that changes going forward, depending on where I am. If I have a goal, and if I don't have a goal, then I will use something completely different. I have arches, and the arches are usually for passing, but at the same time you can use it for shooting accuracy and things like that. Believe and Achieve coaching is something that I set up, and the aim for it is something that I set up with the full focus of believing in yourself and achieving the impossible, if it ever came down to that. So with Believe, you start off with believing in that you can do something, and then going on to it, you achieve it. Then can you achieve even more by believing in yourself? And when I started this, it was based on the fact that I have 2 tattoos, both of them on my feet. The tattoo on my right foot says Believe, and the tattoo on my left foot says Achieve. And when I wrote them down, it was a case of that's what I need to do. I believe I can do anything with my right foot, but I can achieve everything with my left at the same time. So it was a case of achieving the ultimate goal that I set myself to do. The inspiration was from the tattoos, based on the fact that I'm a massive fan of football, fully engrossed in football in terms of how the media side of things work, how just being on the pitch works, being a fan, how the technical side of things work on the pitch and off the pitch, being a coach, being everything that I can be going forward. And this is what really got me to really enjoy learning how to be a believer as well as an achiever. So the tattoos pretty much represent my entire life.
How did you get into coaching? Like, what journey did you take? Was it straightforward, or did you encounter any bumps and obstacles along the way? If you did, what kind of obstacles?
Being a black person, it's not easy. Being a coach, being anything surrounding football, it's not easy. My first few years as a 16-year-old, I went in and done my level 1. I was asked if I wanted to do it when I was 15, but they said that you had to be 16 to do it the first time. So I did it a year later, tried to do as much as I could going through, and I thought, yes, this would be the start of something. Nobody actually gave me the platform that I wanted, and that was the problem. Because I didn't know where to go or how to use my qualification, I just kind of fell into the trap of you just need to go and get a job. So there was my first challenge. My second challenge was when I left all of these jobs, I didn't really enjoy what I was doing. It was just doing them just to make money. And then when I'd done my level 2, still the opportunities weren't really falling, but it was a case of they're there. So by the time it came to about 2011, I did my first level in 2005. And that was pretty much easy. It was 3 days and I just passed because I think the coach just wanted everybody to pass, just to have a box tick. Then it got to level 2, it was a bit more serious, started becoming a bit more technical, starting to understand how to manipulate the ball, how to work passes, how to work shots, how to work as a goalkeeping coach, and that's when I got my level 2 as well in goalkeeping. So I have a qualification in that. And then I started taking it seriously from then on. And from then on, I started seeing that I could do a little bit more. So worked within QPR, worked within Fulham, and worked at the same time both clubs. So I started opening myself up to more opportunities, and I had to do it by myself, really. So the challenges of being a coach, especially a black coach who doesn't get the opportunities presented to them, is the main challenge that you find. Is nobody's actually going to tell you where the opportunities are. You have to go and find them. And it's great, but nowadays every opportunity is open. And that's the difference between when I done my level 1 and level 2 to now whoever does their level 1 and level 2. So I've done that, and I started doing my level 3, which is a UEFA B license. Didn't pass that, and with all the changes that have been happening within the FA at the moment, I don't think I will be passing anytime soon, but it's fine. With the knowledge that I've got, I've now started my one-to-ones, and it means that I can offer the support to everybody that needs it on the pitch and off of the pitch as much as possible, and tell them what they need to work on off the pitch as well as on it. There's been challenges all the way through, there's been pitfalls, there's been things that I've tried to work on, but at the same time, life hasn't been easy.
What do you think about the underrepresentation of black people in the top levels of the game? What do you think are the reasons for this, and do you think it can be changed?
It needs to be changed. We've got a massive representation on the pitch, but our representation off it is very limited. We've been known to be called BAME, and that's Black and Asian minorities, ethnic minorities, and I think that's the worst analogy to use for both black and Asian people, for two reasons. One, black people are not considered a minority, we're in the majority if you look at the football pitch, and on the pitch we are represented I think at 60%, but then when you come off the pitch, there isn't many coaches who are literally directing and showing that this is the levels that you can get to if you want to. So the first player to ever represent England was Sir Arthur Wharton, all the way back in the 1800s, but he also represented Scotland at the same time. Then we have other players in between that have come in, and it sounds like it's the first ever, but then you ask the question of why is it the first ever? It needs to change. It's just a case of the rules have not been set to be equal to everybody. And when you ask the question of why, you have to ask the powers that be. And if the powers that be can't give you a straight answer, then they either don't know the answer or they have it, but they're not going to tell you, because as much as they can give you the answer, they're still governed by their own rules as well.
Do you think people of ethnic minorities are held back by systemic obstacles, or can individuals overcome and succeed?
It's a bit of both, but you have to get through the system in order to break the system down. That's the problem with that's the problem with coaching. Same thing with everything else. You have to break down the system in order to build that barrier to the next level, and that goes with whoever you can see before you. You can actually go and aspire to be like them, or if you feel that there's nobody there before you, you can aspire to be the first of that place and that person. The problem also with that is the system might not allow it. So you have to build the system around it to go, well, this is what I've been doing. Are you taking notice or are you not? And if you're not, then there must be a question of why.
What is your personal football philosophy in terms of how you coach, and what do you expect from your players?
Because I work in the female game, a lot of them they're very good, talented players, but a lot of them they lack confidence. So the first thing that I have to build up is their confidence. So what I look for players in is respect. You're coming to me and you want to play football, so respect the game. Don't just come to me and say, oh, I want to play football and do the best that I can. All right, well, show me what you can do. And if I don't think it's good enough, don't come to me and start complaining. So that's another thing, is taking a bit of ownership and becoming coachable and accountable for what you can do. If you don't, then I can't help you. If you're only going to say, well, this is what my last coach told me, I will say, well, go back to that same coach then. Because anything that I try to teach you, you're going to just completely compare everything that I do. And I'm not the same person. So respect is one thing. Taking ownership and being ready and showing that you can do the job is always a case of saying, this is where I can go, and this is my progression, and this is what I'm going to do for it.
How does coaching adults differ to coaching children? And do you think that gender plays a role? I mean, do you have to teach girls and women differently to each other? Do you have to teach men differently to the way you teach boys? Do you have to teach males differently to how you treat females?
I think you have to treat everything on a case-by-case, team, individual scenario. So if you come with a plan, that's the plan. What happens within it makes you the person that you are. So if you become adaptable with, again, women, girls, boys, men, that's the difference. But you have to come with a plan first for it to actually succeed, or for it to actually materialize. You can adapt all the time. You can adapt whatever you want, but if you're adapting, you're never really going to be working with the players. You're just going to be working with a system. So if the system says that you have to work with males differently to females, then you're not really coaching the player. You're coaching the problem. You're coaching the scenario around it, which is the rhetoric of men are better than women. And I can tell you now, no, they're not. They're all equal, but women are slightly superior, in my opinion.
As a coach, where do you think you excel in particular?
Routines, plans, have to have them. I've been told before that I don't have them enough. Now that I've started to see that my plans are really coming to fruition, you just have to have that plan. So like I said, if you're working with a young team, the plan should be the same as when you're working with an older team. No different. So for me, that's where I excel.
What are your hopes and dreams for Believe and Achieve Coaching? Where would you like to see the company and yourself in 5 years' time?
In the last 5 to 10 years, I've been working in all different places. So in Northwest London, in West London, in East, in West, not West, in South. I've worked outside of London. For me, now's the time to start buckling down and going, I want to work in West London. So now having a platform of going in 5 years' time, I'm going to be working not too far from my home so that I can feel more closer to my community. And I'm actually doing something for the community rather than just leaving the community to deal with the problems that it has. I want to be working as close to home as possible so that the players that I do work with, they feel like they've got a connection with myself and also with Believe and Achieve coaching.
How important do you think community outreach is, and how much of an impact do you think football can have with giving youths kind of a way out and a way off the streets? Because you look at youth services over the past decade, they've been decimated.
To give back to the community is massive. To me personally, it's the biggest thing that you can do as a coach or even as a person. To share that information with the rest of the world is even better. The one thing that I learned over the time where I was playing semi-pro football and I didn't play that well, I understood that I got to a level where that was it. It was just a case of, there's my ceiling, now I can't go any further. So when you get to that ceiling, you now start giving back your time, you now start giving back your knowledge, you now start giving back your wealth. And it's massive to those that actually understand it and see it. Then you know that that's what their job is really to do, is to give back where they can. And if it helps, let's say 10 people out of 150, then they've done something, because then those 10 people will give back to another 150. Those 10 will give to another 150. And at some point, everybody, you could literally circle it all back to the person that actually started it all together. That's what I feel community outreach, as well as the inspiration behind this, is all about. Is to make sure that I inspire a lot of players to feel like they've done something about their life. Not just to play football, but also to realize that they are bigger than what they feel. That's the biggest thing for me. Give them the confidence to realize that they're a lot stronger than they actually are. How
important do you think Believe and Achieve coaching can be in helping with community outreach and helping get youths off the streets and out of trouble?
I feel that Believe and Achieve coaching, if it finds its home, it will become the community hub of that area. And when it does, it will become the place where everybody goes, I've learned something from this person, or I've learned something from the main guy. And once I took that to my next level, I became a bit more of a better person. So for what it does in the community, it can do wonders.